Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to have a look at the Philips radio, portable radio that I've been working on, also known as the Philips Antoinette Deluxe or 22RL798. That's the model number. There is another one which has a similar number, which has a few extra features. I don't know whether that was a later model that came out or other, but it looks virtually identical to this, as I said, apart from a few features. This is a very unusual radio in that for its time, in that it covers the whole of the shortwave band spectrum virtually up to about, I think, 28 or 27 megahertz. And that it has it has five shortwave segments. You can see them here on the radio. That's FM there, that button, then the shortwave 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's 4. And then it's got medium wave, long wave, and that's for using an external antenna. When you press that button, it changes it over. On this side of the radio, you've got the volume control, you've got the high notes, treble, in other words, bass, and then this is the fine tuning control. The tuning control for the medium wave and short wave, the AM tuning control is on this side and the FM is on this side. If you flip the case up, you can see the display. It's quite nicely, quite a nice display on the radio. For some reason, oh, it's not turned on. Okay, let's see if we can turn it on here. Oh, you've got to turn it on here. Let's just go for here. Medium wave. Okay, now it's on at the moment. So now the light will come on and that can light up the display. It still doesn't help you too much to see, although the markings are quite clear on the thing. It's not so easy to see at night, the display, unfortunately, being a black on silver. But it's quite a good spread. That's 8, 8.5, and that's 9. And then it goes to 10, 11, and then it indicates here the red segments are the meter bands, whatever meter band you're on. And then it also indicates marine, or there's also a thing for the amateur radio segment. I think on this lower one down here, the 7, it's got AT, which means amateur transmissions. So that's your 40 meter band down below there. So it's fairly really well marked for its time. It has a fairly accurate tuning meter over here, which also indicates the tuning on the radio. So altogether a nice band spread. I know other radios have a distinctive band spread dial, such as the Grundig satellites, which are much bigger than this radio. They come to about, you can't see my hand there, they're about, this is about 14 inches. I think they're about 17 inches, so about another 3 inches, and a lot thicker, a lot deeper. They're about 8 inches deep. This one's about 5 inches or 4.5 inches deep. I can't remember exactly. Another nice feature for this radio, which is also, I haven't seen this before in another radio, is that it has a loop antenna for the shortwave. You can see the loop antenna here. I've just raised it up, and that will then close down onto the face over there, and then you can lift it up when you want to use it for shortwave listening. So that's quite nice. It has a built-in ferrite rod, like most of the radios for AM. In other words, the broadcast band segment up from 500 to about 1.7, which is over here. And this particular radio runs 500 to 1.5, so it goes a bit higher than that. I think it goes up to 1.6, although it's not marked. The other interesting thing about it, I'll just have to show you here. This is a stand it has on the radio, and then you can rotate the radio for medium wave signals to get the best signal, and also for short wave. Then it gives you the reading, which is 90 degrees at the moment, 70, 80, 70, and so up to 360 altogether. So that's quite an unusual feature. At the back of the radio, also, as was the fashion at that time, I think a lot of the American radios, the Zenith radios, transoceanic and those sort of things, 2000 and whatever the other model, 6000 or 7000, I can't remember the model numbers exactly. They have this time scale map up top, which was quite popular at the time. So it also has that, which is nice. These buttons up here, as I said already, that one's for the light. This one gives you your battery indication level. And then this one here is for your AFC, for the FM, so that's just to lock it onto frequency. The FM scale is up top here on the radio, so that top scale there is the FM. Unfortunately on this one the dial string is broken, so that's quite a mission to replace that, but I'll get round to that. I'm not too worried about the FM on this radio at the moment, so I'm using it as just for shortwave purposes. Okay, the dial, what would I call it? The covering for the loudspeaker is rather unusual. It's all metal. This is actually a casting. It's not plastic or anything like that. And this is metal underneath. So this is something unusual. When you work on the radio, this whole faceplate here, you probably can't see my hand there, this faceplate here and this whole front panel actually hinges up, so that this part is left behind, but the rest of this part here hinges open, and you can then, once you remove these knobs naturally, you can then get into the guts of the radio, and the back panel comes off, and the side panels can also come off. So it's actually made for servicing, which most portable radios aren't really. You have to dismantle off the radio to get to most of the things on a lot of the portable radios. Let's just have a look now at this time of day. I think shortwave 3 or possibly shortwave 2 should be giving us some sort of signals. Let's just see if there's anything there. Okay, I'm not hearing anything at the moment. Just want to make sure that it's... There we go. This is the fine tuning control, so you can tune it in. It's still a bit, needs a bit of cleaning still, but it's quite sensitive. Cracking noise is coming from, I think, one of the transistors. It has still the early transistors, germanium transistors. It doesn't have a silicon. One of them has obviously got a problem. If you run the radio for a while, that goes away. So unfortunately, it's one of the problems with the transistors when they get older. Sometimes they do that, get this cracking sound. 据台媒报道，台南乌山头水库、高雄树山水库接连受爆出大规模废水光电板，尽管相关紧急声明还是安全不影响水库，但民众依旧对板木破碎，恐导致污染。在台南乌山头水库，还有居民曾看见业者派人清洗光电板，质疑可能污染水库。咱会景观啊，不好看到一不漂亮啊，而且还不该。This loop antenna works extremely well on a media wave. Sorry, I just knocked the camera over. The loop antenna works extremely well. It's quite sensitive to the tuning, and also if you rotate the radio, it works quite well. I'll just have to set my camera up again. Got sort of knocked over there, a bit clumsy today. So as I said, unfortunately I've got to reach past the camera to get to the tuning on it. It's a little bit too big for my desk. And then medium wave. Okay, we can't keep it there too long. So unfortunately, due to restrictions on the channel, you can't play music for too long. But it's a very, as I said, a very interesting radio. Certainly worth one adding to one's collection if one can pick one up at a reasonable price. This one was given to me because it was in such a state. The whole radio was covered in grey, kind of like dust and silt, and you can't believe. These are just for these top antennas here, they're just, I'm going to handhold the thing now. These are just for FM, they're two bunny ears, and you can just rotate them around a bit. The back of the radio, it has a number of points where you can connect, which is quite unusual. It has more than the normal connections. That's the power in at the radio at the moment. Let's just unplug that at the moment. So that's an antenna switch where you can switch it to external antenna. So at the moment it's on 0, which means it's all using the internal antennas. There's the upper one, I think, is for, I'm not sure which is what, but one is for short wave and the other one, I think, for medium wave or VHF. And there's the antenna connector, so that's for a 500 ohm connection. I think it's earth wire, and that's where you put your antenna wire in here. This over here is, can't see what that is. That's FM antenna. That's for FM antenna. This is just an input, and that was for the tape recorder, and that's where you use an external loudspeaker or headphone or something like that. So altogether a very nicely made radio, quality radio. This is your battery compartment, the two clips here, you can release it and it hinges up. So I would say it's definitely, yeah, I was interested in getting a Grundig 6000, whatever the model is, or it's 2100, or one of those sort of series where they have the rotating dials for the frequency. But I think this radio, actually, you're going to have to excuse the jumping around now because it's kind of handheld and I'm waffling a bit. But I was quite happy to get this radio, and I'm quite satisfied with this radio. They actually want a lot of money for the Grundig radios, even here in South Africa. So unfortunately, it's a bit out of my price range. I'd rather have a communications receiver for the type of price that they're asking for a Grundig. The communications receiver, of course, far outperforms any of these portable radios. It has a decent frequency readout. You have numbers of controls and passband tuning and all sorts of things, and notch filters and RF gain controls and things like. Some of the portables do have that, I must admit. But I'm very pleased with this radio. It came up really well, and as I say, I just need to get up some courage and replace the dial string. Okay, thanks very much for watching, and that was the Philips, and we'll hear a bit more from that later on in medium wave. I'll give it a go in medium.